Okay, yesterday, the U.S. Department of Labor said the Biden administration will, in the coming days, publish the long-anticipated federal rule requiring private companies with more than 100 employees to either force their staff to get a COVID shot or submit to regular testing. The rule had been drafted by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration under the orders from the White House and submitted on October the 12th to the Office of Management and Budget, which completed its review yesterday. Now, given the workforce fallout we've seen since the president first announced his mandates for private companies on September the 9th, how much worse might things get? And what can be done? Well, with me now to talk about this and more is U.S. Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, who is a member of the Senate Committee on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs. Senator Lankford, welcome back to the program. Always great to see you.
Tony, great to see you as well, always.
Before we get to the COVID shot issue, I want to get your thoughts as a member of the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources and as a senator from the state of Oklahoma, where energy is a big deal. I want to get your thoughts on the president's remark at the climate confab in Scotland. I got a clip of something he said earlier today. Clip 3, please.
To reach net zero by 2050, we're going to need to mobilize trillions of dollars, as our friends at the end of the table know, trillions of dollars in financing to harness both private and public sector resources.
Now, the president giving away a lot of stuff over there in Scotland. Did you guys give him some stuff to give away?
No, we did not. And I think this is going to be similar to what President Obama did during the Paris Accords, when he came and made a bunch of promises, then never came back to Congress to be able to ask to be able to certify, ratify that treaty. He never asked for any of the legislation around it. He just declared it and said, I'm going to come home and to be able to make it. So what President Biden is doing in Scotland right now is promising that he's going to increase the prices for natural gas, increase the prices for gasoline. That's going to directly affect consumers. 98% of all the vehicles on the road right now are gas-powered vehicles that are out there, gas or diesel-powered vehicles. So he's directly pointing towards 98% of Americans and saying, I'm going to raise your prices even more than they've already gone up. And we've all seen the inflation rate that's happened just since President Biden's been president. So he's going to Scotland and saying, if they thought it was bad then, wait till they see what's coming next. That's a big concern for every American. By the way, I don't know of a person that doesn't want clean air, clean water, to be able to take care of our environment. We are stewards of God's creation. But what he's talking about is not just good stewardship. It's going to directly affect those in the highest need and with the greatest amount of poverty.
But we can do both, because over the last century, we have improved our air quality and the water quality. In fact, we have some of the cleanest air we've ever had since the Industrial Revolution in America.
That is correct. And what's interesting is one of the things that President Biden's talking about even today is reducing methane emissions and reducing the use of natural gas. So what's happening in the Northeast and Delaware and states like is they use a lot of home heating oil, and they're saying we don't want to switch from home heating oil to switch to natural gas, which is cleaner. They're going to literally punish natural gas in the process. So it's just nonsensical climate policy. It seems to be words and focused on we're going to set out a target and a number, and everyone can kind of cheer over there in Scotland and say, isn't this a great number? But I don't think people are going to be cheering in the days ahead when they see some of the regulations that they're going to try to put down on the economy and what that's going to mean for prices. I'm with you. I think there is a way to be able to be a good steward of God's earth, but not having to be able to punish the poorest of poor in the process.
Well, he's really coming after Oklahoma. He's coming after your oil and gas and your cows. It's going to be bad for Oklahoma. But Oklahoma is not the only state. One of the big hiccups here for the president in getting his reconciliation bill that contain all of these elements of the Green Deal is the reconciliation bill. But it also hits at coal. Senator Joe Manchin, one of your colleagues, Democrat from West Virginia, has kind of been the stumbling block for the administration on that issue in particular, but also another issue that you've picked up, you've championed it since you've been in the Senate and even in the House, and that is protecting taxpayers from being forced to enter into funding the abortion industry, the Hyde Amendment, which has been removed from all of those funding. He's making an issue over that as well. So where does that reconciliation measure stand? Will they get that through?
No, at current status, we still don't have the text. What's interesting is they made a big deal in the House last week and said, here's our 2,500 pages of text. we start going through the text and there's big sections of it saying, we'll fill this in later, we'll fill this in later. So we don't have actually all the text at this point. And there's a lot of things they've still not answered their questions on. As you mentioned before, hide protections is one of those. You've been a champion to be able to talk about that. They fund a lot of areas and healthcare spending saying these areas don't have hide protections. They're compelling states that don't give money to Planned Parenthood to be able to fund Planned Parenthood through this. Democrats are absolutely obsessed with increasing the number of abortions in America. And it's interesting to me, every single bill that they put out, they try to find some way to promote abortions in America, to literally create more abortions in America is unreal to me. For those of us that do the basic science, to be able to look in the womb and to be able to, a child sucking its thumb and you can count its fingers and toes and see the beating heart and listen to its heartbeats, we understand that that's a child, and they're obsessed with trying to find new ways to be able to take the life of children. So they've got a lot of those in this bill. They've got a lot of climate change issues, as you mentioned, with the Green New Deal that they've stuffed in this bill. They have a lot of new entitlements that are in it, but they also go after things like school choice to try to limit access to school choice for their free childcare and their free pre-K program that they talk so much about. They've snuck in additional pieces saying, well, this wouldn't really go to faith-based institutions. They've got to be government-run or got to be secular institutions. If you're faith-based, we don't want to have those children actually being influenced by people of faith. And they try to reverse the Pell Grant program even for the graduate level and for the undergraduates to say, we're trying to steer you away from anyone that's a faith-based institution and trying to be able to get that. So they're literally trying to manage and control where you go away from anything of faith. And it's a pretty dramatic shift of what we've seen from anything in the past where government was neutral to all things of faith. They're trying to move towards government is hostile towards all things of faith.
Yeah, I want to have a longer conversation at some point because you said something that I think, we hear it, but we really don't unpack it. And that is the left's obsession with abortion. It is true. It's real. I'm seeing it with my own eyes, but we don't have time for that today. I want to very quickly, before we run out of time, turn to the COVID shot mandates. Mm-hmm. How concerned are you about the news yesterday from the Department of Labor regarding the rules for private companies, especially with the holidays coming? What is this going to do to our economy?
Yeah, September the 9th, when President Biden first started talking about this, I started pushing against it. And even at that time, I said, he's going to wait. He set this deadline of November the 9th of having your shot done by that point, or you won't be able to make the deadlines. I made a statement at that point. He's not going to release the regulations on this until after that deadline, because he knows if he releases this regulation, it'll be challenged in court. The court will hold it and will say, you can't move on that. And so this is his way of dragging his feet to try to get to this deadline that he has hanging out there without actually having the court try to intervene in the process. Because right now, no one can sue a speech because there's no regulation sitting out there. And I don't think we'll have a regulation until it's too late. What I'm seeing in this is, for instance, just in package delivery, UPS and FedEx are under this requirement, but he waived the United States Postal Service and said they're not under this requirement. They don't have to all get the shots if you work for the United States Postal Service. But the other delivery companies, they do, which has put those other delivery companies that are private companies at a real disadvantage. We see this in every area where we've talked to lots of employers from my office and my team where they're struggling now because they're literally having people quit their jobs, move to other companies, and it's causing a real problem for them. So right as we're approaching this season around the holiday season, when a lot of businesses are ramping up, they're literally losing their employees, a lot of them long-term experienced employees. Because they're saying, I've already had COVID, I don't want to take the shot as well. They have a reasonable belief dealing with either religious accommodations or medical issues their own doctors talk to them about. But the administration saying if CDC, literally if Washington, D.C. doesn't agree with your local doctor, Washington, D.C. wins. That is the difference in how we really think about these healthcare issues.
Well, I also think, and we're up against a break here, but I think there's an unfunded mandate in here where these employers have to give people time off to get the shot. And if they get sick, they have to cover that time as a result of the shot. Senator, we're out of time. Always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for coming in today.
You bet. Great to see you again, Tony.